Hey guys, welcome back to Dizzle in Motion. And it's like, once there's a crack in the dam, it's starting to all wither away and flow through. Have a small update on the emissions fight, the battle, where there's just so many moving parts. There's so much momentum to change the way things are being done with our emissions and auto registration and cars being built. And it's just this whole moving machine, and it has, again, so much momentum. And it basically more or less is turning into California versus everyone else. So today there's been a couple of great articles written on this. Here's one from Spectrum that I'm going to go through. But basically this 110 organizations, now most of them are like obviously energy companies, American Fuel and Petroleum Company, people with vested interest in gasoline powered vehicles. And so automatically you got to be a little suspect, like what are their motivations? Because the motivations are what? Profit, right? So we take that with a grain of salt. But what happens if, in their search for profit and their bottom line, they're also not wrong? Got to kind of hear it out, right? So Lee Zeldin opening up the EPA. You got Moreno with this new National Transportation Freedom Act, all coming together in a perfect storm, and we're kind of like setting the ball so they could spike the ball and get the emissions stuff repealed. Long story short, California has just as much power, if not more, than the current federal government. So this letter that's being penned is basically the privatized business aspect that we haven't had yet, saying, hey, we support repealing this stuff because it's bad for our national security. If we have to get all our chips from another country and our batteries from another country and all these materials elsewhere, that ultimately is a security threat to us. That is an economic threat to us. And California should not be the one determining those outcomes. It should be Congress. So again, imploring Congress to take action here on behalf of all of us so that the federal government sets a standard that's based on what's best for our country, not what's best for California. Anyways, I'm going to read through this. They did a great job bringing up some good points, and then we'll speak with the closing points when it's over. As always, I'll throw some words up there for you to follow along for you, our visual learners. Rest of you, just sit back, relax, let my amazing voice narrate, and we'll expand into this. Here we go. So, industry group is asking Congress to end California vehicle emission rules. A coalition of groups representing the fuel, agriculture, and transportation industries are urging Congress to end California's ability to set its own emission standards. In a letter to Senate and House leaders, the American Fuel and Petro Manufacturers Association and 110 other organizations said rules requiring the production of more electric vehicles will harm the U.S. economy and threaten national security because of their reliance on adversaries for critical materials. As I just mentioned, they said, quote, while we support reducing emissions in the transportation sector, forced electrification and unachievable standards are not the only way to accomplish this. The groups wrote in the letter, in a country as big and diverse as ours, vehicle offerings need to be diverse to meet Americans' wide-ranging transportation needs. In 2022, California had adopted the latest and long-standing string of regulations to help transition the state to 100% zero-emission vehicle sales by 2035. This regulation reduces allowable emissions for passenger vehicles, pickup trucks, and SUVs that run on gas and diesel starting in 2026. So you see, we're getting close to the deadline here where action needs to happen. It requires automakers to make increasing numbers of zero-emission vehicles with each successive year through 2035. 14 states, accounting for 40% of the new vehicle sales nationally, have followed California's Clean Vehicle Standard. The Clean Air Act of 1967 has given California the authority to set its own emission standards because of its unique weather and geography, which led to severe air pollution. Through the CAA, the state sets more stringent tailpipe emission standards than what the Environmental Protection Agency nationally. In February, EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin recommended the federal government no longer recognize a 15-year-old finding that greenhouse gas emissions threaten public health and welfare. The so-called endangerment finding requires the EPA to take action under the Clean Air Act to curb emissions. Without it, the EPA no longer has the legal authority to regulate emissions from vehicles. In their letter, the group said they support using the Congressional Review Act, a law that requires both houses of Congress to review a federal agency's rule before it can take effect. Quote, Congress has the opportunity to halt California's misguided efforts to tell other America, what kind of vehicles they can and cannot buy, the letter said. Congress should decide if such consequential rules are right for the American people and the American economy, not California. So yeah, basically reiterating what I had already summarized. But the implications of this, you guys, are huge. That's why you got a lot of you have been turning in for these emission vehicles. You're like, when, where? When do I don't have to smog my 1987 Trans Am or whatever? These are all great questions, but really the way this is going to come about is with this multi-prong attack and so much pressure, I feel like something's going to give here. California is going to have to win in the Supreme Court on some de facto level because there's just crazy, everyone, private, the right's running things right now politically, they're all full steam ahead. The average consumer, unless you're just a total idealist on the environmentalist aspect and you totally ignore economics, the average consumer wants this as well. You guys want choice, right? You want choice. Again, nobody hates the environment. Nobody, wants to get rid of, clean air or clean water. But what we've found is the stuff that they're projecting, that they're forcing upon you, not only limits your freedom to express yourself in the vehicle that's best for you, whether it's capacity, range, method of, diesel or not. Not only that, but it forces you into an economic disparity where if you want to, even if it's available, the amount of hoops and the financial hardship that you have to go through to find what's best for you as a consumer, for your family, for your work, for your business, it's going to be detrimental economically, way far beyond the environmental implications of what they're trying to do. So, and this goes all the way down, as I mentioned before, whether you're talking about chips to build something electronic, batteries, exotic materials that most of these EVs are made of. I think EVs are great. There's a good market for them. I'd like to have one for like a commuter, right? And then like my real car or my real truck, as I would call it, on the side. And that should be my right to do that. I shouldn't pay a penalty for the freedom of that. And then again, going back to truck drivers, right? Truck drivers, mass transportation people, anybody that works, especially if you're in the diesel world, you know what I'm talking about here. It's so much hardship that it's actually driving costs up to consumers. Deliveries are up, maintenance is up because trucks can't stay on the road. And they're already 60 times cleaner than they were 40 years ago. We've already achieved pretty much the maximum standards. So we went through all this trouble to make gasoline engines super clean and efficient, and now we're just gonna eliminate them altogether. And the hardship of a whole new technology coming in, you can't force that on a deadline. You gotta let the free market capital economy, love it or hate it, it's the best system we've come up with so far. Let that dictate how all these chips are gonna fall. Anyways, that's the latest and greatest on emissions news. Hopefully there's more stuff coming out this week because it's getting really interesting. And like I said, just a full press attack on this against California. So Carb has been quiet. They have no comment on this stuff. California, I think they're just plotting and scheming their legal cases and there's going to be there. Let me know in the comments. I know you guys get fired up about this. Are we getting close? I know I don't have any dates for you yet, but you feel it, right? You feel all the momentum from all these different organizations. Anyways, appreciate you watching the video. I'll keep them coming. Catch you on the next one.